Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks why, I'm here to ask, why not? I'll be breaking down the mindsets of guests as well as my own in a bid to find out what makes people say, why not? Hey guys, and welcome back to Why Not. So today I have an interview with Janette Murphy, who is a psychotherapist based here in Dublin, and we're going to talk all about anxiety, as it's one of the things she works with in her practice on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, we talked all things anxiety, triggers of anxiety, things that you may not realise might set you off, or things to combat it as well. And I think this is really interesting conversation, so I'm really looking forward for you guys to listen to this. So as ever, if you are listening to the podcast, do sit back, relax and enjoy, or walk and listen, whatever way. I just really hope you enjoy this episode. So hi guys, and welcome back to the Why Not podcast. So today I have Janette Murphy. Janette Murphy is a psychotherapist based here in Dublin, and I'm going to let Janette kind of tell us a bit more about what she does herself, because she'll be able to describe it better. Welcome to the podcast, Janette. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks a million. Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
Thank you for coming on. Can you let everyone know just all about you, what you do, and how you got into it maybe as well?
Sure. I'm Janette. I'm a psychotherapist and counsellor. I'm based in Dublin 3 in Clontarf. I have a centre there, Clontarf Therapy Centre, which is newly opened really only the last year. I kind of opened the doors, if you like, around this time last year, which wasn't the best time in the world to do it, but we did it last year. And we have a number of psychotherapists, psychologists working out of there that deal with all range of issues. Myself, I would be an integrative psychotherapist. I use different types of psychotherapy depending on the person who's in front of me. So you hear things like CBT, and you hear things like psychoanalysis. And really, most of us just take a blend of those different types of psychotherapy to work with who's in front of us, like you would if you were doing a personal training session. You have to have what fits the person with you.
So it's very kind of tailored approach depending on the person.
Yeah, well, everyone brings something different story, different background, and it isn't a one size fits all. It's really what works best for that person and what they bring to the table or what they want to work with.
Yeah. So how did you get into this?
I used to work in education and training, adult education and training, and I did for quite a number of years. I ended up working for a large corporate environment, and I got to learn an awful lot more about the psychological end of things around psychometric testing, leadership development, developing people and that sort of thing. I left there when I had my first child, and I worked in the inner city with a 16 to 21-year-old, kind of not school dropouts, but they really wanted to stay in education rather than go out into the big world just yet. So I used to teach those type of students. And I suppose what I realised there is that a lot of people think, God, they're really in survival place there. They're really trying to cope, in Dublin 1. What I found really interesting was that some were thriving and some were surviving.
Yeah.
And the real nature, nurture, is it the environment that's raising them like this, or is it who they are, or how they were born that's keeping them like this? And I saw an awful lot of damaged people, an awful lot of thriving people, like I say, and all in between. So that really started my interest in learning a bit more around the psychology of people, not just how people learn, but how people are.
That's really interesting. I do find that also very interesting. Do you think it is more the kind of nurture element that happens to people, or?
It's one of the world's greatest debates. We just don't
know.
I know that I was born like this, but a lot of times, or this is just how I am, a lot of times you actually find people are just like this, that their whole environment, their parents were like that, or their parents had parents too and they were like that. And then, I think the only type of person that can be born is someone on this more psychopathic level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, the rest of us are a little more environmental, but who knows? It's like we could sit here for 4 hours debating.
The ever question.
Yeah.
So one of the things you deal with quite a bit by the looks of it is anxiety. So what is the definition of anxiety, would you say, first off? Because I think people have a lot of ideas of what it is, but maybe not know the exact definition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm sure everyone's experienced it. Like I even experienced a bit of anxiety coming on here today, you know, that kind of, ooh, how am I feeling? You need to kind of get the nerves a little bit lower. I've never really done many of these. But I was looking for one and I found a great one. And it says, anxiety really is, a psychotherapist called Stella O'Malley said this. She said it's the overestimation of danger combined with an underestimation of our ability to cope. So I could feel, for example, threatened by this, that this is dangerous to me if I say the wrong thing. What about my reputation? And my underestimation of I won't be able to deal with that. But of course I can. And of course it's not a danger. And that's really what anxiety is. And it's coming from a very prehistoric way of being, from how we've evolved, where we've evolved from to where we are now. But it's very present. And most people can tell you they have felt it at some point or another.
I don't think there's anyone in the world who can say that they haven't felt it at one point.
Yeah, a great description I know of that people say that how it feels, in case anyone's never felt it. It's like when you miss a step on the stairs on your way down the stairs, you know that?
Yeah.
But constantly. That's anxiety. That's what it feels like. And then at all different levels. So if you're on the last step, it's not so bad versus the first step on the stairs on your way down. That's really
Yeah.
bad. So,
That actually, as you described that, I was literally like, oh God, that's awful. It's like it's So have you found a rise since in recent times in anxiety? Obviously, I know there's a lot going on at the moment to be anxious about. So
yeah, well, you know, it is. There has been a lot. I suppose we're kind of, the way anxiety works is that we have that old part of our brain in our limbic system. There's a little part of it called the amygdala that's really can fire up. And a lot of people say that it's different names. One guy called Steve Peters calls it our inner chimp. That's like it's protecting us from danger. It's when it's that's the bit that makes you move your head when you're dodging a ball coming at your head. They're supposed to thinking about, oh, there's a ball coming at my head, what'll I do? It's the reactionary part.
yeah,
The inner chimp, because it's quick, it moves fast, but it's also, it can be a little bit foolish. I call it the jumpy superhero because it's on it when you're anxious, it's on, and it can react very quickly, which is what we need, but it can also overreact, and it doesn't know when we're overreacting to a situation. Well, have I seen a rise in it? I've seen a rise in it even before pandemic times. People were overwhelmed with lots of information. We're overwhelmed with we have to and we must do. And there's a perfectionistic streak that I think is running through the world of have to be a certain way, have to do certain things. I suppose even in the pandemic, it's like I must make banana bread because everyone's making banana bread. Do you know that kind of way? That's sort
yeah.
of, I have to live up to expectations. So yeah, I suppose that's a long way of answering. Yes, there's definitely has been a rise in it, and more so with the pandemic.
Do you think that has been caused kind of by social media because everyone's seeing, like you said, I have to make banana bread, everyone else making banana bread, like
Yeah, definitely. It's again like that lady Stella O'Malley, who I just think she's a lovely practical way of dealing with anxiety. She calls it, we're in an age of anxiety. And there's another guy, Professor Donald O'Shea. I know I'm dropping all these names, but I don't own this information, so I'm uncomfortable saying it's coming from.
Oh no, like it's good because people can look them up as well and find the information. So
both of them are very wise. Professor Donald O'Shea says most ill health comes from our lifestyle. And anxiety is a symptom of what's wrong. It's how it's showing up in us. So there's more going on underneath. So so she says like when we're doing too much, we're taking on too much. Our coping mechanisms are a bit faulty with how we're living at the minute. They're just not dealing with our old coping mechanisms of overwhelm aren't working in today's day.
do you see higher instances in this in men or women?
That was a question I was interested in. I think I know I'm generalizing. Women tend to talk more.
Yeah.
And tend to internalize more again, but that depends on who you are and where you've come from and your own background. So I suppose a lot of people, and I think it's kind of an Irish thing and perhaps even an English thing, keep calm and can carry on. It's really, people internalize it a lot more. People blame themselves a lot more for not being able to cope. People, look good on the outside, that they're doing really well, their Instagram profile is fine, their Facebook or whatever is great, but underneath there's that they're taking a lot on. There's a lot of internal mechanisms going on. They don't know how to do the next thing. They're quietly panicking, if you like.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's men or women. I think it's both, but I think it's more of a, I suppose it's stereotypical, but we, you know, get on with it, Irish thing that we tend to do. You're grand, you know,
Yeah.
you get on with it. And that's really damaging. It's really damaging. And it's been damaging even our parents' generation, our parents' parents. It's going on for years. And we don't need to just get on with it. We need to sit and think about it. We need to understand how our brain works. We need to take ourselves on board. And as we were saying before, you know, you need to participate in how to take yourself on and work yourself through some different situations that are inducing and so on, whether you're male or female or all the rest.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think what you're saying about women, I think they do speak about it more, don't they? Whereas men, like, they are, you know, you're not allowed to show emotion as a man, really. That's a really prevalent thing.
Get out and kick a ball. And I thought, oh my God, no, don't get out and kick a ball. Get out and talk to me, or talk, let me help you talk through it, or find a word for what you're feeling rather than kick a ball. That's just putting aggression into it.
That's a good way of describing it. Do you think that there is a stigma about going to see a therapist still?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is that there's something wrong with you, stigma, and the other is you're really indulging yourself, stigma.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple of them there, and people are, God, don't tell anyone going to therapist. They just, you know, they think I'm just throwing money at it or something like that. Yeah, there's a couple of stigmas, but and then I suppose there's the other thing. It's probably the unpopular opinion to say is that not everyone needs therapy. You don't have to keep coming to a therapist. We can, all the answers, once you peel back our defenses and our not so healthy way of coping, a lot of answers already within yourself. Once you can get underneath your anxiety, you can slow yourself down to think and feel things through, but you have to think and feel things through, not just feel or just think. But yeah, there is, so there's 3 things I've just said. So there's the indulgent part, there's the what's wrong with your part, and then there's the you mightn't have to go part. People think, you know, that it's something wrong with me, I must go to therapy, which isn't true.
So you actually think that not everyone needs to go to, or even like you don't have to go ongoing. It's something you could get to a point where you can move away from it once you have the tools to deal with yourself.
Yeah, it's tools and resources. I suppose the biggest thing to say is getting help and ask for help. If you're over anxious, if you're ruminating a lot and you have a lot of intrusive thoughts and you're not getting rid of them, and you're not able to slow yourself down, you do need to speak to someone. But that person could be a therapist, but it could be a really good friend, it could be your partner, it could be an old friend, it could be, there's lots of resources out there. A lot of therapy can be pricey. There's low cost therapy and there's high cost therapy. You can, I suppose, how long is a piece of string, but there are resources. People tend to not ask for help, and that is another problem. That, you know, I'm fine, I'll get on with it. Sure, look at Susan next door is doing great, and Barbara up the road is fab. What's wrong with me? You know, I'll be grand.
Yeah.
It just keeps building and building and building and building. So it's about asking for help and helping yourself, not just talk through it, but, you know, get out and do a few more things, try other things. I suppose that's saying, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got.
Yeah.
For things.
That's the other thing as well. So if what you resist, what you resist persists, isn't it? So if you're trying to bottle it down, it's going to come out at some point.
That's it. And actually, Freud said what we repress comes forth in uglier ways. So, and I don't quote him that often, although 1 or 2 clients might disagree with me, but he was right in the sense that we do push it down and it comes out sideways. So if you're stressed and you're not dealing with it, or you're not taking time out to just let yourself come down, you'll snap at someone, you'll get angry, you'll throw something. You know, it all comes out in different ways, but less healthy. And people are saying, God, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with him? But it's just untreated stress or anxiety.
Yeah, I think as well, it's a lot coming up now, which people don't realise is it's coming out physically as well, not necessarily you like snapping at someone, but if you're sick all the time, that can be because you're constantly stressed. If you're like pains in your shoulders particularly, like, and they're like, oh, I've hurt myself doing this, but actually when your shoulders are locked up and
it's unbelievable. I was talking to a physio recently and they were telling me the amount of shoulder pain at the minute that they're treating is ridiculous. One is for tension and the other one is for punching over computers. We're so much more online. There's a lot of pulls and stuff like that. But just saying that with it's psychosomatic stress as well, that it goes down into your stomach, it goes into your heart, like heart rate, heart speeds. It's not just tension. The mind-body connection is huge.
Yeah.
I don't think we respect it enough. There's a guy called Stephen Porges who talks about the polyvagal therapy, and I don't know if you've heard of the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
The nerve that travels on the front of the body from, so your spine's at the back, if you like, and this travels from your head, and it kind of touches off every organ. And when it's not in tune and when it's not toned, it can send all different messages to different parts. So I suppose if you have a weaker part, you might get IBS if you have a stomach issue. You might get palpitations if you have heart issues. Over time, this is, but it just comes out in different. You're dead right, in different parts of our bodies. The best way to describe how closely our body and minds are connected is butterflies. You know, when you're nervous and you feel it in your stomach, and that's when anxiety the amygdala starts moving, that part of our limbic system, our old part of our brain. It starts revving up, if you like, and it sends adrenaline and cortisol into your system. And when that's happening, you go into that fight, flight, or other people can add on freeze or appease, that sort of way we are. And you go into that. So what the butterflies actually are is the brain signaling the body, the stomach, to rid itself of all contents. So I've heard of other expressions for that. But, what it means is that it's just, you're not at rest and digesting anymore. Everything is, all the blood has gone to your extremities, so you can run or you can fight.
Yeah.
But as I'm sure you'd see, if a cat is playing with a mouse will play dead, which is freeze, which we do as well. You ever get into an argument and you just don't know what to say back?
Yeah.
Freeze until later when you're talking to yourself in the mirror, then you're all the answers. But at the time,
I'm in the argument in your head. I should have said that.
That one. Or you get the appease response as well, which is when people say, oh no, you're right, or whatever, do anything but just not to have a conflict. Everyone happy. That's the other one. So when our brain does fire, that amygdala does fire all of that into our system, we do go into those 4 stages, which is where anxiety thrives. And it can come down, it doesn't. Unless you help ourselves to come down, it doesn't. It's conditioned to jump into that, one of those positions.
The freeze and appease, that's actually a new one. I've never heard of that. And as you said it, I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, you always just think of fright or flight, but like they're similar but different, and you can definitely like see it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I can honestly say most of us have done it to avoid conflict, the freeze and appease. I know that it's David or Richard Attenborough, I can never tell, but I remember when we were in college, they were showing us a video of literally a lioness jumping into a herd of, I think it was gazelles, jumping and pulling one out, and she pulled it into the long grass, but the gazelle just flopped. She brought it into the long grass, sort of kicked it a bit, and it just played dead. And then she went, grand, that's breakfast, and went off into the crowded gazelle again for dinner, I suppose. But the camera stayed on the gazelle, and you could see it sort of standing up and waking up, but its whole system just knew to shut down to survive.
Oh, wow. And
we do that too. We're not that dissimilar in that older part of our brain, the limbic system, to know to do that in order to survive this perceived threat. And I say perceived because we are far from that world. We don't live in that world anymore like cavemen. We had to just run or, fight the animal. But that part of our brain, it's still quite very much so exists.
Yeah. I think it was which is kind of works in our, like, works against us now, but we're the only animal that can perceive threat, in a sense. Does that make sense? Like, so we're the only one with the ability to have anxiety, which other animals, if it's in front of them, it happens. Whereas we can be sitting there going, God, what if I get eaten tomorrow? And you're like, you're not going to get eaten, but suddenly you're there worrying about something that never happened to you.
That's it, and that can come from your past. So I call that the presenting past. Anxiety can often sometimes be what happened before. It's the feeling of what is happening now, happened before. And what happened before might have been much worse. So we're perceiving that this is as much of a threat in here. It's a massive anxiety. We're not animals anymore. What we have different is our reasoning brain, our cortex, our thinking brain. And that's the wiser part of us that slows us down, that, you know, questions things a little bit more critically, well, a lot more critical minded. Whereas that old part of our brain just is very reactionary, which is necessary if there's a speeding car coming at you in the middle of a road.
Yeah.
But it's not going to help us thrive. It helps us only survive, which is what the animal kingdom only need. They don't need to reason things through. We do.
Yeah.
And that's like working off emotional. So it's the run, hide, whatever. But we need to also go, no, hold on. If I just take a breath, I can see that, you know, I don't need to react so quickly.
Yeah. Taking that breath is the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and that's the bit, you know, anxiety is a bit, it is so reactionary, and it gets it wrong an awful lot in humans in this day and age. But if we just take that time to slow down, we can recondition it. And this is how anxiety can be healed. But it's hard, it's over time, and you have to be a participant in it for your brain, because you have to know yourself. But if you don't, and leave it up to someone else, it's almost impossible to get out of that system. So if you do go to therapy, or if you do talk to someone, it's about trying to find a way to help yourself through it, as much as having someone to listen to you.
Yeah. And do you find people do turn up to therapy and like, you're going to fix me now, this will be sorted?
I don't think they really come in with that conscious thought. It's probably a wish. And to be honest, who wouldn't want to wish for something like that?
Yeah.
In an office somewhere in a corner. But to be honest with you, often I be fairly straight with all of my clients, and I say, this is like, I work with you, and like a physio would work with you, like a personal trainer would work with you, but we're working on a sort of a mental fitness, if you like, as well as, you know, calming your whole system down. We're looking at you as a whole person, and I'm working with you based on where you've come from and what you've got, and how we can help you move forward from this bit. People are often stuck when they come in. It's usually a lot to do with, I say, kind of loss. So grief is one part of that, but you can grieve a loss of work, a loss of friendship, a loss of youth, a loss of, you name it, anything. It doesn't have to be just someone who's passed away. It can be a lot of things.
Did they realize it's going to take longer? So I suppose, like, you know, I find in my industry, and I think it comes across like with physios as well, is like people think they'll come in one session sorted, whereas it actually takes work. And if you've spent 10, 15 years in this mindset, it's not going to go overnight.
Yeah. Again, that's the wishful thinking or magical thinking. I suppose, I know my mother used to put out the child to Prague the day before a wedding, hoping that the next day would be lovely and sunny. A certain age group will understand that, but that's wishful thinking. We like the statue being in your garden has nothing to do with how the weather is going to be the next day. Some people follow rituals, hoping that something will be great the next day. So it's like that. I'll just turn up here and then I'll be fine. It does take a long time. It does take effort. It doesn't really matter how old you are. For therapy anyway. It's how you are, and the work you put in is what brings back the result. And sometimes in that work you realize, right, well, this bit's going to take a bit longer than I realized. So if you have a weaker leg, in your terms, if you've one weaker leg than another, you're going to have to spend more time on your left leg than your right leg if the left is the weaker one.
Yeah.
Like that, if you have a trauma in your life that, you know, for example, if you were run over, that part of you crossing the road is going to take longer than someone who might actually drive the car. Do you know, that kind of way? So and the weaker parts, and they take, often the times people are surprised, that take a bit longer.
Okay, yeah.
Need a bit more, well, not weaker, I suppose it's not a great term. They just need more building up.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the thing is, well, like anything worth achieving, it does take hard work. So if you put the time and effort, you will get the benefits, and that works across the board with everything, I think. Do you have any favorite approaches to dealing with anxiety? Do some things work better than others, or is it really case by case basis?
It's kind of case by case, I suppose. One of the things I would say is, especially with anxiety tends to jump you back. I said that, or I did that, and you'd be looking through it through an anxiety haze, so it's magnified. Or it also tends you to jump forward, so project into the future, all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And all of that. What if I said this? What if I say that? The best advice is to be in the moment. We only have now, and I know it's quite cliche, but it's about conditioning and training yourself to stay in the moment as much as possible. So you can only train yourself to be in the moment. This sounds mad. In the moment. You can't tell yourself after you've just had a kind of a anxiety panic about something that you're about to do, oh, well, I won't do that the next time, because your brain now knows that this is an anxiety inducing moment. For example, if you're going to a social event, a lot of people I feel might have social anxiety after this pandemic, going out into parties and things like that. And if you go in and your brain starts jumping, or your amygdala starts jumping around saying, oh, this isn't safe, I don't like this, what are you going to say? That person's looking at you funny, you never liked him, definitely never liked her. And your brain is jumping around, danger, 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 danger. If you run from that party or leave early, you're now creating a link in your brain that says social events are dangerous. And the more you do that, the more cemented that link gets, and the more social anxiety will happen. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the same because our amygdala is conditioned, it's trained, you're training it in. So oftentimes it's in that moment when you're feeling stressed, or God, this is awful, or I'm not sure how to be, or uncomfortable. And it's actually sitting and being uncomfortable and staying being uncomfortable, taking a few breaths, maybe an extra trip to the bathroom just so you can breathe, or maybe standing beside someone you do like, or someone you're more at ease with, or just, facing into it. So it's not kind of fake it till you make it, it's face it till you make it.
That's a good way of saying it, yeah.
Yeah. So you're training yourself to not freak out, but that's hard. I'm not going to say it's just face it till you make it, you'll be fine. It's hard, and it takes more than once or twice to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. When you mentioned social anxiety, it's like, that's me. I've become a happy hermit since this since it's been locked in my house.
A lot of people realize they're more introverted than they were before, or they really are introverts. They just get more energy from being on their own rather than out with people.
Yeah. Oh, I knew I was an introvert, but I didn't realize how much until I didn't have to do anything. Which is funny, being like the job I do and I'm people front all the time, but
yeah, but it's not good for us not to be connected. We're as human beings, we're kind of thrive on being connected to other people, attached with boundaries, obviously, but
yeah,
we do thrive being attached to other people in some forms or other. So
that was something I noticed actually when my boyfriend who I live with, like when he was working from home, I was grand, and then a couple of weeks he was back in the office for a while. I was like, okay, now this is a bit much. I've literally nothing now.
the house seems empty all of a sudden.
Yeah, just me and the guinea pigs.
That's right, I saw you guinea pigs. Excellent.
I talk a lot to them. Have you seen a rise in the number of people who are seeking therapy now?
Yeah. Mostly I would take GP referrals or through people I know, or things like that. But yeah, there is a rise. People, again, the coping mechanisms, usually it's when their usual coping mechanisms aren't working. So being really busy. So we haven't had the option of being really busy the last year.
Yeah.
So I must clean the house, must do this, must do that. So it's all avoidance of what's going on internally. Yeah, so there is a rise of people just trying to figure themselves out. Why am I like this? People are more psychologically minded than they were ever before. And they also want to know who they are and what really makes them tick. And having someone sitting with you and working that through is a lot of people find very interesting. So some people will come for say 6 months, and then might take a break, and then they might come for another year, and they might take a break, and they jump in and out.
Yeah.
It's important. Even us therapists go to therapy because, like you have to keep yourself fit. So do we.
Yeah, I totally understand. It makes sense, because if you're like not listening, but if you're helping people all the time, you need to be able to help yourself so you can help people as well. I know to say about the pandemic as well, people haven't got the avoidance techniques anymore. So it's almost like you're forced into dealing with it now.
Yeah, we've a lot of time with our own thoughts now. A lot of time. So a lot of those repetitive things that come up that have always been there, maybe messages when you were younger that are, you'll never be good at that. We sit with a lot of our own internal voices. Not that you're hearing voices, but your own inside.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you're trying to work through that, it's when you're trying to learn about yourself, it's sitting down and understanding, what are my distortions? We call them cognitive distortions, but your own cognitions. Things like some people I know, I'm sure you do too, catastrophize everything. Oh my God, it's awful. I just got, say, 20% in my exam. I'll never be able to learn that again. It's over. I'll just throw it away. As opposed to that's again, that little amygdala, the limbic system overworking, jumping in, just run away from it. People are living with it in a more, it's more intrusive. We can't have things, we aren't seeing people, we aren't distracted enough anymore. There's only so much Netflix you can watch to ignore your own thinking. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
I was interested as well that you said about the GP referrals. I didn't think, or not that I didn't think, but I suppose my knowledge in certain things of the GPs, they tend to give you medication and off you go, which again, I've nothing against GPs. They they work hard. I always feel like I'm saying that, like I'm saying giving out about them a bit. But it's good to see that they're doing they are referring now as well onto psychotherapists.
I like that, a lot of, as you were saying earlier, like the mind and body is so linked. And a lot of people are going in, they might have heart palpitations, and they get up and they go into hospital, maybe have ECGs and this and that. And it's what it is at the bottom line is a deep set anxiety, or it could be an anxiety disorder. I don't diagnose, but generalized anxiety that could be there for years. It's just as people get older, they're just not, their bodies aren't coping with it as well. GPs are, I have to say, more and more that I meet, they're just much better at this.
Yeah.
Looking for, if you want a tablet for depression, you'll find a GP that'll give you a tablet for depression, if that's what you want. If you want to calm your anxiety, you'll find a GP that'll give you something for that. But if you want to ask for help, a GP normally will have a number of people like me on their list and say, okay, if they take an extra 5 minutes with the patient, they'll find less medication going into that body. Over their year, I can imagine they've less medicine to dispense, and more people are happier within themselves.
Do you feel like taking antidepressants are sometimes a bit of a band-aid as opposed to dealing with the issue?
No, I don't. I know. Yeah, I think it depends on what's happening.
Yeah.
Someone's anxiety, so when you're that anxious and your amygdala's on fire, you're full of adrenaline, you're always in fight and flight, you're always falling down the stairs, then that you can't think. So when that happens, your cortex is offline, your thinking brain is offline. So if you're not able to slow yourself down, you might need help with that.
Yeah.
And so it's not a band-aid. I would see it as help. People go, I'm never taking a tablet. And to be honest, before I trained, I would have thought the same. But the more I see, the more I know. I think when we want to get out of a place, we take what the resources, whatever they are, that are useful to you. So through your GP, and say someone like me, I often work closely with the GP, with someone to help them get to the right place at the end.
Yeah. See, I think that's good as well to acknowledge for people who may be in that scenario and thinking, oh no, I'm not touching that, or I'm not doing this, like to break down, because I think in a sense there's still a stigma for that as well. Like, for if you say you're on antidepressants, you wouldn't want to tell people you're on antidepressants, but it doesn't make you a bad person or less of a person.
No, absolutely not. No intervention that's for your wellness is wrong, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Like, say, for instance, yoga might work for someone and it mightn't work for you. So, you know, it's
that's it. I mean, yoga is great for tapping into that mind-body connection. It is really good. But if I'm really honest, I'm not a yoga person. I'm not. I'd rather go for a run. And I think running and yoga go well together. But I'm usually, I can't stretch that well after a run. So yoga, you know, the way it just doesn't always.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. My sister is a big yoga person. Me, like, it's all right sometimes, but like that, doing something like a weight training session would work for me better. Like, I'm not a big fan of running. I still do it, but
yeah, I'm usually a fan of running when I've finished the run.
Yeah, that's always the best part.
But it's really about, Chrissy, it's about finding what's right for you. I can't say this enough. There is no one size fits all for anybody, and you have to find your way of being mindful is the way to really slow down, whether that's breathing or going for a run or weightlifting, that you're only doing that at the moment. I think it was Una Sullivan that says, she's an expert in mindfulness, and she said sometimes it's just really, when you're cutting a tomato, that you're just cutting a tomato. That's it. You're just slicing a tomato to the best of your ability in that moment. That's enough mindfulness for you today, then that's fine. And you go and you can build it from there. I think if I told some clients the only way you can slow down now is by sitting in a corner like a yogi and doing, you know, saying 17 times, people will run out the door. Like, there'd be that shape in the hole in the door. There's no need. It's finding your own way to slow down.
One thing I was listening to Pat DeVilli's podcast, and he had Dermot, whose surname I can't remember right now. He's on Dermot and Dave from Today FM.
Yeah.
And he's gotten very big into the kind of meditation side of things and everything. And he was saying to people, it's like, if you are doing like some breathing episodes and all this, the thing is, it's not that your mind stays clear the whole time. Yeah. It's the fact that if a thought comes into your mind, you're able to bring yourself back to your breathing. And I think people assume that if they can't sit still for 5 minutes and not think of anything, they're doing it wrong. Whereas just even that little bit, if you can go, okay, now we'll come back to the breath, it's the same effect. It's normal, you know, for the thoughts to wander into your mind.
Absolutely. It's trying to, but it's by continuing coming back to the breath or into your body. It's about slowing down your head. A lot of us, I say, are floating heads. We're really good thinkers. We're very good at working things out, thinking things through and reacting and stuff like that. But it's only when you connect how your body reacts, that vagal theory that I was talking about earlier, that when you get into the mind and the body and you get the two of them working together, that you'll really see huge improvements in yourself and how you move in your life and how you make decisions and the whole lot. So it's what he's saying is we need to get out of our heads. That's what mindfulness is. And if your head sneaks in there, just go, no, not right now, and come back to whatever it is you're doing, whether it's slicing a tomato, breathing, or trying to stay alive while you're going for a run.
that is the good thing about running, because you're so focused on staying alive, you can't worry about anything else.
And sometimes even, you know, I would go for short little runs, and I would just literally just count breaths in and count breaths out, and that's when I'm getting from the start to the finish, and then I might stop and breathe and go back again. And like, that's what works for me. But for others, it could be literally, as I said, a simple thing like slicing bread or slicing something. So find your thing. That's really, and that's only so individual. Only you know what yours is.
Yeah,
it's pausing. It's the power of a pause sometimes, and whether it's to answer something, whether it's to slow your brain or shut those thoughts down, but continuously keep on doing that. And that's what mindfulness does. It calms that amygdala reaction down and retrains it to slow first, act later.
It's brilliant. So this is the last question I have for you, and it's the one that's a little bit left field that I love asking people because they have to think of a lot of time about it. And it is, what is the best advice that someone ever gave you?
Oh gosh, I've got lots of advice over the years.
You can pick a couple as well if you want. I have given that option for a few people because it is hard to pick one, I think.
It is, yeah. For different reasons you get advice, I suppose. But I think one, my mom used to give us going out the door, and she I don't even know if she even meant it this way, but it's something that I carry, and I probably say to my own children, is remember who you are. And it's by remembering, it's another way of saying that is kind of know yourself. So it's not the appeasing, giving yourself over to other people or trying to show them that you're something you're not, or being an inauthentic self that we often talk about.
Yeah.
Remember who you are and who you want to be in this world, and whatever it is you want to do or not do in this world. So I think that is, should be delighted, that'd be the best piece of advice I ever got. And being that authentic self, because I think we're only at most our relaxed selves when we know we're being real.
Yeah.
And we're at ease with people who are real, even if we don't like them. We kind of know who they are. So, if we don't like what they're saying. So that is, remember who you are. And then she used to throw holy water at us.
That's such an Irish mammy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I remember going out to do my leaving cert and she's flinging water at me. Like, what are you doing? Nothing. Remember who you are. Remember who you are.
I think that's actually a really good point though as well, what you're saying is like, because someone I interviewed, they said, if you don't lie, you've nothing to remember, was something his mom said. And it's like that. If you're not being your authentic self, you're lying essentially, and you have to keep track of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's one of our non-negotiables. Gabor Mate used to say this. It's one of our non-negotiables as humans. The other one is attachment. We have to be attached when we're born. We need our parents or caregivers to take care of us. And the other one is being our authentic self. And the more you pull away from that, the more things that can go wrong inside. For example, anxiety creates anxiety, depression, and all different types of things that can go really awry. So it's when you keep coming back to who you are.
Yeah.
It's where you find your most peace, and not trying to be the banana bread maker, the best person to work out during lockdown. I've gone for, every time I see someone around here, I say, oh, another walk, because everyone feel like you need to walk. It's just about being yourself and what's good for you. It's not just being yourself and doing nothing either. That's the other end of it. But it's, the authentic self is where you'll find the most rest and the most peace in our mind.
Yeah, I know what you say about the exercise. I get that a lot. I was like, oh, you're doing that again? And I'm like, yeah, but this is my mental health. This helps me.
Exactly.
And you won't stop me.
That post I put up the other day, and here I go for the stupid walk for my stupid self, for my stupid mental physical health. We all have that kind of must do, have to, but there's some days you don't need to go for that walk at all. I guess we just need to maybe have a rest day.
Oh, that's me when I go walking, because I don't like walking because I get bored. I don't like running either, but I fidget too much. I'll try to listen to a podcast, but if I'm walking, I'll start playing my phone and I miss what I'm trying to listen to. Whereas when I'm running, I can't, because I have to listen to what I'm doing. So that's me every time. So I better go for a walk, and I'm like,
I think a lot of people related to that one. I know I did.
So I think that is everything. Just before you go, Janette, where can everybody find you if they are looking into therapy or even just want to follow you on social media? Yeah,
I'm under Janette_psychotherapist on social media. I will be in future. I have a Clontarf Therapy Centre website going up. I'm also, you can find me under JanetteMurphy.ie online, and I'm on Facebook too. Again, Janette Psychotherapist, just kept it simple. And my numbers and contact details are all on there.
Oh, perfect. And as I said, just thanks again for joining us. Everyone can find me as well, still on Instagram and TikTok at Chrissy H Fitness. Yeah, thanks again. I'm really bad at finishing this.
Thanks a million.
Thank you again for listening to the Why Not podcast. It really means a lot that you are listening in, and I would love if you could please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or subscribe on Spotify. And always, I'd love to hear feedback personally, so if you do want to leave me a message and let me know how you found the podcast, please do.